Hey, what's up, Gotcha Gamers? And today we're going to talk about basically the upcoming banners or upcoming 5-star characters coming to the game, that coming in 1.1, and also what we think is going to be coming in 1.2, because I'm recording this before there's any official announcement, but on their Twitter page they post a picture of both Blade and Kafka, so I'm assuming that's going to come in 1.2. So we're going to talk about all these characters now, which ones you should be summoning for, which ones you should not be summoning for. So basically we're going to talk about all the characters here, talk about their abilities, and you can form your own opinion on whether you want to summon for those characters or not. Now I'll be giving my own opinions as well on this, but yeah, that's the general premise of this video. So let's go ahead and talk about it, guys. First, we're going to start off with Silverwolf, then we'll talk about Luocha, then Blade, and then Kafka. Mommy. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. So talking about Silverwolf first, she's going to be a quantum Anhility character. And yes, Kafka's also an Anhility character as well, but even with them both being Anhility, I think Silverwolf and Kafka played two very different roles on the team, whereas Kafka, I think, is more of a DPS role, whereas Silverwolf is more of like a debuffer role. So let's go ahead and talk about Silverwolf first. Her basic attack is basically going to attack the enemy and apply a bug to that enemy for 3 turns. Her skill is going to attack the enemy and then also has a chance to apply a weakness on the enemy, that being of a random ally's typing. And it's also going to be reducing that target's resistance to that element by 20% as well. Now this right here is really good, and I see a lot of people making the argument that you can only really run this on mono teams, or you won't need this. I think this is needed. I think this is an all-around really good skill to have, because this doesn't limit you to running a mono team on certain things, because the argument with having to run a mono team for this to work is kind of dumb, because you're not going to be going into battle with everyone's typings not working against that one opponent. So if you go into a boss that has a weakness against like ice and wind or something like that, and you bring like a Sampo and a Japard in there, that means your third unit could be like a Kafka or a Zila or something like that, or literally anything else. You can use that ability, and it's either going to give them a Silverwolf debuff, or it's going to give them a debuff for that character. And it's going to give the enemy the debuff of that character that you have on the team. So I don't think the argument of having you run a mono team really works for this case. I know she did get nerfed a little bit, but she's still cracked OP. Talking about the ultimate now, guys, she's going to be entangling the enemy, and for each debuff inflicted on the enemy, she's going to deal an additional 18% of her attack to the enemy up to 5 times. When entangled, the enemy's actions are delayed by 40% until the next turn. The enemy will also receive quantum dot damage for 48% of Silverwolf's attack. I mean, overall, this is just really good. She's going to be applying dot damage to the enemy, meaning you can use this with a Sampo, and you could probably use this with a Kafka as well, and just make an absolutely insane dot damage team. And like I said, her abilities as well, you can bring like really anyone into any fight, and you can apply a weakness debuff to that enemy. She doesn't even have to be using a dot team. You can literally throw in any team and it would work. So yeah, those are my thoughts and opinions on her. I think she's really cracked, really OP, and I think she's really, really good. Next, we're going to talk about Luocha, which is an imaginary type unit. Yeah, we don't really have many imaginary types units in the game other than Welt. And do you know how hard it is to actually pull for a specific character on the standard banner? Yeah, good luck. If you have Welt, then you have Welt and you're good to go. But I mean, this is going to be an imaginary unit on a featured banner, meaning you're more likely to pull this character and having an imaginary damage unit. And I think that's going to be pretty essential. On top of this, he's also a healer as well. So if you are free to play, this could help you out a lot too. But let's go ahead and talk about his skill now. So as far as what his skill does, guys, it's going to immediately restore HP to one ally. He'll also be gaining stacks of this Abyss Flower when an ally reaches 50% or less HP. He's going to be immediately healing that ally, and it's going to not even consume a skill point, and you can trigger this every 2 turns. This is really strong. This is passive healing he has. So you're not even having to use skill points to heal an ally. This is just really good. I mean, the skill economy with him, I think, is really, really big, and I think it's really important, the skill economy that he has. Now, as far as what the ultimate does, is going to be removing a buff from all enemies, dealing imaginary damage, and he's also going to be getting 1 stack of the Abyss Flower. So as far as removing a buff from the enemy, just think about the enemy, the big chunky Iceman that summons his little creatures in and he sucks them up and gets a big attack buff. This would be completely nullifying that, because he would just take that buff away. This is really good, and I think it's just honestly cracked. And as far as what the talent does, guys, whenever the Abyss Flower reaches 2 stacks, Luocha is going to consume all those stacks. It's going to deploy a field, and basically it's going to heal your allies up as they get hit, which is basically like what Bailu's ult does, except this is not the ult, this is a passive. Basically, if you're just using your skills in your ultimate, you're getting this. You're getting passive healing from this guy. Like, the skill economy, like I said, with him is really huge. He only has a 100 energy cost as of right now. We don't know if that'll change when he actually comes out, but as of right now, he just looks really, really cracked. And honestly, I do think Luocha is probably a must summon for if you're a free-to-play player and you haven't pulled Bailu. I honestly think that he is going to be absolutely amazing. I think he's going to be a decent DPS unit for you. He's going to remove buffs from the enemy, like I said before, passive healing, and I think he's going to do pretty big damage as well. I don't know if I said that already. I might have said that. I don't know. I lose my mind pretty quick. Anyways, let's go ahead and hop off Luocha now and talk about Blade. Alright guys, so as far as what Blade does, he basically kind of plays like Hu Tao from Genshin, if you know who that is. Basically, he's dealing damage off of his HP, and yeah, he's just basically going to be doing that. I mean, I personally, from looking at his skill, I don't think he's that good or a must summon for. He is another like wind type unit, so I mean, maybe for that category. From looking at his skill though, I don't think he's a must summon as of right now. Things could change with him, but as of right now, I don't think he's a must summon for. But let's talk about skill. So his basic attack is actually going to be a bit different from normal basic attacks. He's going to be having a damage skill from 50 to 130% of his attack. His skill is actually not going to do an attack at all. It's basically going to consume his max HP, immediately advance him forward. It's going to increase his damage by a certain percentage. It's also going to be enhancing his basic attack. But this does not charge any energy. So if you use this ability, you are not getting any extra energy for him to use his ult, which to me, that is not very good, because that means you're using a skill point and you're getting less for that skill point than just the ability alone. I don't think that the damage increase is that good in comparison to how much energy you're losing, because keep in mind guys, whenever you use a skill, you're actually gaining 20 energy. So that means to actually build his ultimate up, it's going to take a lot longer to build that ultimate up. But talking on the subject of ultimate, let's go ahead and talk about his. He's going to be dealing damage equal to his attack plus a certain percentage of his max HP to an enemy and then adjacent enemies, and then he'll be dealing additional damage to adjacent enemies based off his attack and max HP. This is also going to set his HP to 50%. So now, I didn't play the closed beta test with him, so I don't know if he's like at 5% HP, he uses this ability, it sets him back up to 50%. I'm assuming it'll definitely go down, but I don't know about going back up. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. And then finally, his talent, guys. Every time he takes damage, he's going to get 1 stack of charge. It can stack up to 5 times. Whenever the maximum charge is reached, consumes all charges and immediately unleashes a follow-up attack on all enemies, dealing a certain amount of his attack, plus a percentage of the HP he lost while charging those stacks, and then it also restores 30% of his HP as well. So yeah, all in all, guys, he is a DPS unit that relies on him getting health down a lot and stuff like that. Now, I don't know, like I said before, I didn't put it in the closed beta test. Just from looking at a skill right here, though, he doesn't look like he's that good. I mean, he looks fine, but I mean, overall, I think that not charging energy from the skill is actually kind of copium for him, because you kind of need his ultimate to do a lot of damage. And I mean, yeah, you want to be using the skill as much as possible as well to be reducing his HP to get the follow-up attack. So I mean, I don't know. That's how I feel on him. I don't think he's a must summon for, honestly. I think he's alright, but we'll have to wait and see what his actual scalings are when he comes out. Okay, and now we're going to talk about the Dom Mommy Kafka. Alright, now we're going to talk about Dom Mommy Kafka. Let's go ahead and talk about her skill first, guys. Her skill is going to deal lightning damage to a certain target, and then also a certain percentage of her attack as lightning damage to adjacent target. This actually kind of plays like Serval's skill, where Serval uses her ability, and then it attacks the main enemy in the middle, and then it gets some damage on the outside enemies, and kind of like a physical MC as well when you use the bat, and it does some damage to the outside, most damage to the inside enemy, so on and so forth. But what this is also going to do is if the enemy is under DOT, this is going to deal 100% of all current DOT to the enemy back again. So say they have wind shear, say they have shock, say they're burned, then it's going to deal all that damage immediately, and then when it switches their turn, it deals it again. So you're just going to be getting a lot of damage out of like Kafka's skill here. Talking about her ultimate now, it's going to be dealing a certain amount of lightning damage to all enemies. There's a 100% base chance to be shocked, and immediately you take damage equal to 82% of the received damage. When shocked, enemies receive 64% of Kafka's attack as lightning DOT at the start of their turn. So yeah, this all relying on DOT, and that's why I think her and Sampo are going to pair so great together. Now, the initial damage is not really going to hit that much because you're really relying on the DOT to hit hard, and that's the reason why I say her and Sampo are going to play really, really good together. And then finally, her talent is after an ally uses a basic attack on a shocked enemy, Kafka immediately deals a certain amount of her attack as lightning damage to that enemy. This can be triggered once per turn. Now, the reason why this is good is because you can just keep stacking up lightning damage on the enemy. I mean, you're going to have to use your basic attack on someone as far as skill point consumption goes, so this is just plays really good. So all in all, honestly, I think Kafka is going to be a really good unit. I think Kafka is going to be really, really good in the game. Do I think she's going to be better than Jing Yuan? Maybe. DOT might destroy things. We're going to have to wait and see until her actual kit comes out into the game. But I do think Kafka is honestly pretty strong. I think Blade, for me anyways, is a pretty safe skip. Now, the hardest one for me is going to be Luocha and also Silverwolf, because I really want Luocha. That passive healing he gives is kind of insane, kind of crazy, honestly. And I think if you're a free to play player without a buy loot, I think this is a must pull for you as far as Luocha goes, because it's going to allow you to save up skill points using your DPS. It's going to give you passive healing, and he also does pretty good damage on top of that. Silverwolf as well. Silverwolf applies all these debuffs to the enemies, and I just think she's pretty cracked too. Like, the ability to add an extra weakness to an enemy is actually really strong, because you could potentially bring her and Zila into the same match together. If the enemy doesn't have a quantum buff, you use that ability, now they have a quantum debuff. Your Zila is now breaking the enemy's shield, and we all know she's the best DPS in the freaking game, dude. So, I mean, go off with it, I guess. And then you have Kafka, which is, you know, another Inhildi, and I think she's going to work well with Sampo. So let's kind of hop into my final thoughts now on who you should be pulling, or my opinions on basically who I'm pulling for and stuff like that. I think personally, if you are a free-to-play player, Luocha is probably the move to go, especially if you do not have buy loot, because the passive healing he gives you is insane. Also, on top of this, he's providing pretty good damage output as well. It's just really good. It's just a really good all-around unit. I think he's absolutely cracked. As far as what I'll be pulling for number 2, if you don't have a DPS character, I think Kafka is probably going to be a solid DPS unit for you. So I would recommend pulling for Kafka, especially if you don't have any 5-star DPS units. I think this could help you clear the game pretty fast with just having Kafka on your team. I think number 3 would probably be Silverwolf. Unless you do have a DPS already, then maybe that jumps up to number 2 or number 1, depending on if you have 2 healers or not. Even if you have 2 healers, I think Luocha is going to power creep Bailu by a lot. So there's that. And I think Blade is 4th best. I honestly, looking at his kit, I don't like his kit too much. He just looks kind of inconsistent with the damage, and I think it's going to be really hard to charge that ultimate back up. But with that being said, guys, that's really my thoughts on it. So number 1, Luocha. Number 2, either Kafka or Silverwolf, depending on if you need a DPS or not. Now with this, guys, I think the support that Silverwolf could bring to the team over the DPS Kafka brings to the team will probably last you a lot longer than Kafka's DPS will last you. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And then finally, like I said, number 4 on the list, bottom of the list, Blade. So yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Who are you guys pulling for? Let me know that in the comments. That's what I really want to know. Who are you guys pulling for? It's probably Mommy Kafka, right? Or it might be Silverwolf, or maybe Luocha? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope everyone enjoyed my little analysis here on the characters, and I'll see you in the next one later. Bye-bye.